this is Chris Young with 80/20 CRM by Get Real. Thank you for being here and tuning in. We're excited to have you as a part of the 80/20 family. We're going to review the disposition process and transaction coordination process. We'll split them into a couple videos. But I wanted to start out with the general process flow, just real high level. I won't get in detail here. There'll be another video for more details of the flow. But we have this funnel that's available to you in the Resource Center that just shows you how your sales funnel flows with objects and forms within Salesforce. From a very high level, your leads come in, of course, from their different sources, and they come in as gross leads into the lead section, where your lead manager and inside sales team often operate and run. From here, they're going to capture the lead details. They're going to qualify the lead through the pillars, right? The ownership, the condition, motivation, time frame, competition, financials. They're going to convert or unqualify, qualify or unqualify, or disqualify that lead. And that is going to then convert into an opportunity. And let me just zoom in on this guy. Perfect. Let's go out a little. On the opportunity, there is the acquisition form here in yellow. That's going to handle the underwriting, the condition, preliminary condition of the property, which of course is needed to feed into the underwriting, the offer and offer details, and getting it under contract. So a new lead is qualified. We get an appointment set. There's also actually an appointment form in there as well. And we need to capture that appointment outcome and then the offer and the offer outcome. Some of the most important fields here, which are highlighted on that acquisition form, but we need the amount, of course, acquisition amount, the expected closing date, and the accepted date. When was that accepted? So we will trigger off that accepted date to let disposition and transaction coordinators know that, hey, we've got a new contract. Let's go. Time to get to work. So once that opportunity is under contract, it's going to move into the property transaction object. And each property that was put under contract, could be many, will have its own transaction record. And that will allow the disposition agent here to work the disposition form, which will continue to move it through the funnel, that deal through the funnel. They can confirm the underwriting, review the condition and scope of work, maybe update the exit price and strategy if need be. They can work through the rehab and kind of project management side of things exists there as well. You'll notice that's a little outside of scope typically for a disposition agent. So we've got it outside of that scope a little here, but the stage nonetheless may be moved. They'll prepare it for marketing and perform all the marketing from this disposition form, and also get buyer offers in and lock those in and confirm the details for the buyer. So that's kind of that third step. We have leads, and then qualified leads or opportunities, so gross leads, net leads. Then we have our offers and contracts, and then our acquisition offers is really on the opportunity, but disposition offers and contracts. And then our closings will be for the transaction coordinator. And you'll see there's a process built out for our transaction coordinators to work through the closing process, both the acquisition and disposition closing process. It may be a single close wholesale, or it may be a double close, creative financing, any sort of different terms can all be handled from this transaction coordinator form. And then of course we get it closed out and we have our revenue generated from that deal. So that is the real high level general flow within Salesforce: leads, opportunities, transactions, but also the lead intake form, the acquisition form on the opportunity, the disposition form on the transaction in the disposition tab, and then the transaction coordination form, which is also on the transaction object, but in its own tab. So just to give a high level overview there, now let's jump over to running the disposition process. As a reminder, an opportunity was just put under contract. Let's look at the acquisition form. And we have the ability to highlight the most relevant fields, so you can toggle that on or off. And one of the most important ones here is this accepted date, so that the system knows we do have an accepted contract, right? And that triggers all sorts of things for notifications and push notifications, as well as email and SMS. It also, for reports and dashboards and KPIs, it's a really important field to have. If you have an amount and a close date and you add an accepted date, it will automatically create an offer record for you that then can be filled out, as you have that information. So we got this one accepted under contract. So nice work to the acquisition agent. They can celebrate a little if they want to. I think we've got a few, looks like we've hidden them here, but some little things in there for that. And then your disposition agent and transaction coordinator, if they are on the team, right? So if they're on the team, they will get a notification. So there's a few ways to add them to the team. There can be default opportunity teams. So if you really only have one Dispo agent and one TC, then you can do it that way. If we need to round robin them, we can do that as well. Or as your acquisition agent is working the deal, they can set the Dispo agent here. And here's some of the, woohoo, nice work. In case they're excited and want to celebrate. And then the transaction coordinator can be set here, right? It kind of flows. We've got the underwriting done, and let's go ahead and set the Dispo agent so they are aware of that underwriting. And sometimes they do the underwriting since they know their buyer's list. And then we have, once we've got the offer details in, let's go ahead and set the transaction coordinator who's gonna be handling this offer or transaction. All right, so easy to add those team members. You can also add them for opportunity teams. And then they are on the left-hand side here on the record as well, I believe. But we, of course, we always encourage and motivate using this center form because it pushes data everywhere to all of the places that it needs to go. The left-hand side will as well, but it's just not as robust as what you can do from the middle here. It's just not as tied in as what you can do in the middle. Okay, so let's jump to the transaction and look at the disposition process. So if we can get there by that forward arrow I just clicked, we can get there by dropping down our transactions and going to it from here. We can go to a list view and get there. The fastest way though, if I'm on an opportunity, is again just to click this go to arrow right there, and that will take me to it. All right. So I am now on this transaction, South Greenfield Road. I am a disposition agent and I'm looking to work this property to get it marketed. Now this one, let me just take it back. It would have started in this under contract stage. And so let's go ahead and move it back to that under contract stage. And that's where I would begin. And from here, I've got my guidance for success here if I need them, right? So it's saying, hey, if it's under contract, we need to have an offer, an accepted date, a projected closing date, a deal type, and then ideally the dispo agent so they can be notified. And then we've got some other stages. They can be changed, no problem, but this is out of the box what they come with, and automations are tied to them. But improving, now we got under contract. If it's any sort of flip or a wholesale or needs any sort of improvement, then it's going to go into that kind of improving project in progress or work in progress stage for a while. And that's fine. And then marketing, so you can skip that and go straight to marketing. If, hey, we're ready, it's wholesale, we're going to market it right away. That's fine too. And in that marketing stage, you're going to see a few details that ideally we have so that we can get it marketed to our buyer's list. All right. So let's kind of work through that process. If I'm a disposition agent, just came into me, I've got my notes right here, right? So we are tying back tasks and events and notes from the opportunity are automatically syncing over to the transaction as well. That way, as a disposition agent or a transaction coordinator, or maybe I'm in QA or I'm in field service, I don't have to jump back to the opportunity to see the conversation history, the logs here. I've got my full timeline available from right there. If I need to get a quick summary of the record, this specific property, Rain here will send to AI and bring back a summary so I can get a quick digest of this record. Always useful for a handoff. You may have a call with your acquisition agent as well, or rep, and just say, hey, tell me what's going on here, what we're looking to sell for, or, what you saw. I can also grab those details from here. This one looks like it's got an action plan on it, which is likely going to have been assigned to a transaction coordinator. Get a new contract. There's lots of steps for them to do. There can also, and are commonly, action plans assigned to disposition agents. hey, make sure you understand the scope of work, make sure you understand the needs so that when you're marketing to buyers, you get the status of the roof and HVAC, and maybe understand how to access the property, or if there's a tenant there, those sorts of things. There can be action plans for just confirming those details and getting it queued up. We've got a photo here, and you can just see a few things that have happened in this timeline, which is really nice. It's really nice to have those details just right in front of me, and I don't have to bounce back to the op or anything. I can just see them here. So I've reviewed with this one. That one is assigned to the transaction coordinator, so it's not owned by me. We can see Amon, who's the TC. He's got that one. All right, going through the disposition form, the first thing we see, the team and status. We've got Shadab and Amon, disposition agent, transaction coordinator. You can see this Dispo status. I moved it, but this is, to clarify, this is the high level transaction stage, right? So from a very high level, management wants to just kind of see generally in the pipeline where things are. These down here allow me to have my own micro stage, if you will, or my own disposition status, so that I can throw that into a Kanban view or my own list views, and I can look at, for my workflow, where am I at on this deal? Because acquisition agent's going to be in a different place, the disposition agent's going to be working on something, transaction coordinator, etc. So you can kind of understand why each role really needs its own flow, where they're at with it. It's not always super linear. There's often parallel paths running. Maybe TC's working through title. There's a cloud on title. They're working through those issues. They need their own view, their own pipeline for that, so they can know where they are. All right, moving down, property and condition. We've got some basic property details that ideally came in from the acquisition side of things, right? Whether they went on an appointment and took them down, took notes while they were there, or they had a phone call and discussed them, or they even put them into their own voice to text notes. The nice thing is that if they put those there, Rain will capture those notes, and it will actually suggest fields that should be updated based on some of those notes that were had in those that are put on those free text fields. Whether it is notes, call transcriptions, comments in a comments field, needed repairs in a repair text box, it will try and capture those and push them where they need to go. All right, so we've got that detail, that information here. A couple of other things on the form is our rehab scope. So we can see when acquisition put together what they expect the rehab to be. I can see those scope items. And then I've got, perfect, just want to make sure. Then I've got this rehab percentage. Maybe as a disposition agent, you're like, we need to wholesale this. We need to take it down and wholesale it. It's a little too, or maybe it's close to retail, and we could make a pretty good amount more if we just do a few tweaks and then retail it. So you can do that, right? You can, of course, just say, hey, I think our rehab, we're going to put maybe 50% rehab into it. You can update that. So update that scope of work. This one, we've got wholesale there. And then I can change the calculator if it moved, like, hey, this actually is a lower end calculator we need to use, or we want to use a different price schedule. No problem. I can also change the deal type here and rerun. I can rerun my calculations. Now, as long as on the acquisition, they check the box underwriting approved, that will have locked in those initial underwriting numbers, right? So then I can rerun them and just know what my current estimates are based on rerunning those numbers. So we just changed this to a wholesale, and I want to see what the wholesale numbers are, and it's going to spit out some new numbers for me. I don't actually remember what I ended up putting on that rehab percentage. Let me check. Okay, I also have rehab percentage at 50%. Now keep in mind, this is going to interact with wholesale. When I specify wholesale, it automatically changes some of that rehab scope to being what a wholesale typically would include. So I don't really need to add both, right? Because it's already going to adjust for some of that. But here we can see rehab changed, holding, closing, which it dropped, which it should have. Because previously when we were looking at a wholesale, those numbers would have been for the buyer. what's the buyer's renovation cost look like? What's their holding costs look like? That way I can tell if there's going to be margin in it for them as well. So this changed. And I can kind of see those differences there. Great. I can see profit numbers, suggested sale price, some updates there. I've got my initial acquisition amount, $795, just so that I know. Also the closing date. I can see what the acquisition amount is and the closing date were from acquisition side, just to keep me aware of that. I've got some other inputs here. I've got my ARV and other things that I've kept in touch with. In this case, we also have a rent number, which is nice in case I decide I want to maybe turnkey this or hold it as a rental for myself. And then I have some metrics or KPIs here. So gross profit margin, percent ARV at the end of the day, what we're looking at as a percent ARV number, rehab per foot, it's a wholesale. The rent rule, we're almost at the 1% rule here at these numbers, and then my cap rate. These numbers, rent rule, cap rate, they're going to be dependent on what my exit price is, because we're really looking at that rule for the buyer. Does it make sense for the buyer? What's the cap rate for the buyer? If they buy at 1.4 million, their rent is $6,000 a month, but then they have a 35 to 40% overall in vacancy and management fees and blah blah blah. Usually what it adds up to. Then that's what those numbers are. All right, so I've got my suggested sale price based on the wholesale. I could also override this, right? I can say, yeah, I don't think we need to exit at that point. We can, move it down to 1.2 or whatever it needs to be. In this case, we can see the ARV is 1.45 and we're wholetailing it. So we should be pretty darn close to that number. Now, there's always going to be some, because when you're wholetailing, you're not doing everything and there's some closing costs. And so essentially what we remove is the amount it would require for the retail buyer to actually get it back to ARV, all right? Get it all the way there. That's where that number's coming from. But I could overwrite that if I want. So now that I've got this information here, I've run my calculations. I know what my exit price is going to be. And I can move to prepare this for marketing. So if I go prepare for portal, this is going to bring up a one and a half pager, if you will, for me to get the marketing ready, right? So let's just review what we have. We've got a property heading, and we want to make sure that we've got something that would work for an email heading or on the list view, and we'll show you why, or the card view. We've got our listing status. Maybe this is coming soon. We want to kind of get a sneak peek out there to our buyers. Our listing terms, it could be an assignment, a sale, a lease, owner finance, turnkey. You've got some options there. If you want to type comparables, usually those would have been generated along the way, but you can always generate comparables. There's a couple of ways to do that. If I retrieve property details, I don't even know if this is a legitimate address, so we'll look. It is, great. I can have it write comps for me. So we can see the 3 that it pulled from the MLS. Looks like they're nearby. I could delete some off that if I don't think they fit. And we can see kind of where those comps are. They're right very close to each other. We've got the average per foot, which is just straight up dollar per foot for each of these times the square footage of this property. And then the weighted is using a similarity score. So it's weighting the price per foot of each of these based on how similar are they in location and bed bath and square footage and how recent was the sale and all those things. They get a weighting, which is what an appraiser would do, right? It's we try and follow the same logic an appraiser would use. So it created the comp records for me. Okay, and I think that's it. I mean, I can check other things if I want, but I don't need to right here. And we'll finish that. And you can see that comparable attached. Boom, right there. Fantastic. So the comparable's there. Now when I post it to the portal, those comp records will be there, and I'll show you what that looks like. My list price. All right, so what in the calculators, we're calculating for the suggested sale price, which is at the end of the day, what do we need to get for this property to hit our margins? That doesn't mean that's always what you're going to market it for or list it for out of the gates. You may anchor it high so that you can have some room to work down. Or if you know it's a seller's market, you may put it low so that you can start more of an auction or bid war. Right? So it depends on what the market conditions are that you're in, how good your buyer's list is, and how well you know you're able to market to them and kind of get some excitement around a property. So there's a number of factors that play into what you might actually list it for. So we give you a list price field, also the suggested price. You'll notice these are already pulled from what we did. So as acquisitions worked it, as dispositions worked it, it's already pulling in for me, which is fantastic. A buy it now price. If in your portal you want to have an auction type of system and you want to buy it now price, we have that option. That's no problem. The ARV, you can, if say it is a wholesale and you want to just show like, hey, here's what the ARV is and we're selling it at this major discount. You can have the portal show the value that you see it at. Kind of goes along with the comps. They can see the value that, hey, there's 300 grand in margin on this. This is great. Let me pick it up or at least review it. So those fields are good. The next is a thumbnail and photos in the preview. So we want to make sure we have a nice, good, clean, representative thumbnail of the property. And I can preview that if I need to look at it more there. Or I can delete this and upload a new one. I always want to hit finish upload after I upload a thumbnail or change the thumbnail, because that will push it and make sure it's in all the right places. Here we can see, and this is, I would typically get a cleaner, larger photo than this. It's just a little tiny thumbnail, so it's a little blurry. But we can see our list price, bed, bath, square footage. We can see its contract assignment that's available. We just give the city, state there, just kind of a general location. And then I can see my property heading. So this is showing me what it will look like, and I'll open the portal in a minute, what it will look like on the portal and in the email that gets sent over. Will not have all of this view, but you'll have the image and the heading. All right, so let's click done there. Let's check out our photos, see if we have photos attached. We don't have any, so let's just upload a couple of photos here. Let me just grab, I don't know, we'll grab these two, just throw them in there. And then also the photos URL. If you've got a lot of photos, we recommend 3 to 5 in Sales Cloud or in Salesforce attached to the property. Looks good in the portal and they work well. If you've got a whole bunch, 20, 30 of them, we recommend putting them into an album. And you're probably already doing that. It's easy. The acquisition agent, whoever's walking the property, snaps a bunch, drops them into an album. You just link it here. And then if you have a video walkthrough, now this could be a Matterport type of video, or maybe your acquisition agent goes through and takes a kind of a 3D virtual walkthrough while they're there, which is super common also. Either of those, just throw the link in there and they will attach to the site, and we'll show you that as well. So this is going to just preview the images that we have for this property. Okay, so I went through and we've got this top section, my list price, my ARV, my comps, my listing status and terms. I added a thumbnail and photos. If I want to preview that, this preview button here will actually pop open the site and let me see the page for this property specifically. So this looks good. I can see the status and terms. Here's the value I was mentioning. You can see we have that turned on in this case. Hey, we're selling it at 1.2. It's worth 145. Pretty good margins there. I can see the thumbnail, the photo album link and the virtual tour link. There's icons there. Property details, make an offer. I can see the agent info. Now this one's important. If you want it to look pretty personal, always make sure that the agent has a profile photo and that profile photo has been marked as publicly available. Then their photo will show up here and it just adds a nice touch to it. It's worth doing, and we can show that in a minute. The photos attached if they want to contact the agent. Hey, I'm interested in this property. Key information, looks like we haven't added any yet. Property details, there's the comparables we created. Nice. I'm glad that sinks in well. And then text the disposition agent with info, and if they had a phone number, it will show up too. So we'll just update that so we can see it. So it looking pretty good. Let's make some additional edits. If it's in an HOA, maybe we want to have that in there. Bed bath count looks good. Levels, carport, basements, basic details. The market that it's in, and we don't have any in this scratch org, but it's useful to attach a market. That way, if they're looking at your markets to buy properties and ones they're interested in, it will show up in that. And you can hold shift or the command key or option key and hold multiple of them, or control key. The next one is showing information. If you know you're going to have an inspection coming up soon, or an open house or a showing, then you can, and you want to make that public, no problem. You can drop that in, make it public. If there are certain details like an open house, maybe it's virtual showing, or maybe an auction type. You could add other types here, by the way, if you want to put inspection or something else. And then other code or access instructions that you want to include, always worth having those available. And this last one here is the key information section. Now we do have RAIN tied to this that will take the information available and bring back a listing description for you. So it should capture the details of the property and understand the exit strategy as well. And maybe we want to change that one, which we can, but it's bringing back some details. If you want to edit the prompt, you can see that here. So you're always welcome to edit the prompt. Whoops, I didn't mean to click that button. It's going to run it again. And so this is going to be aware of the record details that are there, but at least gives us a good quick start for marketing that property. So, okay, good enough. And maybe we want to change this. Something like that. All right, so once we feel pretty comfortable that we have the high level details, listing information, property details, any showing information, and key info, if we wanted to, we could jump back to the preview. And we should see a bit of that update. So let's go ahead and give it a check here. Okay, so there's interested in the next showing, and it's got the date and time, and they can just check that box, and when they submit, it'll let your disposition agent know they're interested. We got key information there. One other thing I'm going to do here, actually, and we'll come back and preview it. And then, of course, the thumbnail and photos I can see in the preview. I'm actually going to hide that preview. I'm going to go to the next page. I'm going to change the disposition agent because I believe that I have a photo, so we can just kind of see that. I think I've been, and while I'm doing that, again, it just gives you a quick glance at high level details, like, hey, make sure this looks good. Disposition agent, who's the main contact for this property, and then ready for portal. So marking it ready for portal is going to tell Marketing Cloud, hey, I'm ready to do an email blast and a text SMS blast. It also is going to tell the disposition portal, hey, go ahead and publish this property. We're good to make it public. And so those will all happen, and it'll be ready to go. So you're just kind of confirming that you're happy with the marketing. The next thing is this generate prospects. Generate prospects is going to look at your buyers list, the available buyer contacts that you have. Could be 23 or it could be 23,000. But it's going to pull those buyer contacts in. It's also going to filter them by which ones are in the market that you selected or buy in that market or in that county or zip code or city, because those are options for the buy box. It's going to look at, hey, do we have any that are VIPs or VIPs in this market, which is a great scenario. And then it will look for all buyers that match the property details at 90% or 80% better. So like bed, bath, price range, location, all that stuff. And then realtors, if you want to go ahead and blast out to all your realtors. And if you want to target specific prospects like by name, Aaron Wheeler or something like that, You can click that one as well. It will pop up another screen, and let's just show it. It's going to create those prospects that we selected, and then it's also going to let me select targeted prospects here. So let's go ahead with those. And if I want to search by name, I actually don't know. Let's just look and see if I've got. I don't know what buyers are in this scratch org. I should. Okay, looks like we've got a couple here that it pulled. Probably found them. Let's see. Let's go ahead and add them. All right, so that's going to kick off creating those prospects. And what happens is once those prospects are created, Marketing Cloud sends off email content, has the thumbnail and the key info and some basic details, or the property heading, I mean, like bed, bath count, some basic details, and a link back to the portal. And let's go ahead and jump to that portal that we just prepared, right? It's available over here. And we will add a link in here, which I need to do. There's that info we just put together. Okay, so here's that property we just published. I've got all the details. You can see here now my photo shows up. I went ahead and changed me to the disposition agent. My photo is public. Let's go ahead and just put some info in there and say we're interested. I can click these and go to those links, key info, property details, and comps. Excellent. And then my photo and my phone number that they can click to dial if they want. So a lot of useful, really clean, at least we've tried to make it really clean. Maybe I'm biased, but fairly simple, branded to you, your colors, all synchronized with your Salesforce data to make it pretty easy and simple to push across. Now, let's go ahead and submit this form, contact form. Say I'm a buyer interested in making an offer or maybe just reviewing it with you. And then at the same time, I'll go ahead and just add an offer in here. Let's say I'm okay, let's just do 1, 2, because I'm coming in lower and I can close, in a couple weeks. Maybe that's my LLC. I'm going to buy for cash and I'm looking to hold this. Maybe I want to turn it into a rental. So if it's retail, they can say it's personal home. If they're an agent, they can say it's personal home. If they're an investor, client of yours, they may say it's a rental or a flip, or they're going to reassign it. You can turn those off, but it is useful. So a lot of this portal is customizable the way you want it, but useful to know some of that information. It's like, hey, is this a cash deal? Let's prioritize that. It's fantastic. Are they going to reassign it and it's going to daisy chain and possibly cause some issues with it closing? You may have some risk concern there you want to consider. So those just came in, and let's just check it out here. Let's go ahead and refresh this timeline. Okay, so we got 2 tasks assigned because I submitted an offer and I said I'm interested in, so I kind of did both at once. But you can say, hey, here's the first one. Hello, I'm interested in South Greenfield Road. Mention they're interested in the next showing, right? So we add those notes because they checked that box and it got assigned to me. I'm the disposition agent. I got a notification, a push notification and an email letting me know, and a task assigned to me to follow up with them right away, right? Call this buyer, they're interested. We also got this task. They made an offer. And so we created another one here. There's actually going to be some other information tied to this record. We'll show you. Okay, let's see here. We've got a bit of information. This is all tied back to the opportunity or transaction that it's tied to. We've got the name right here. All right, Christopher Young, and then it's related to this transaction. So we've got some information on that. Let's go back. Close that guy. The other thing that we're going to see is the offer that just came in. Chris buys houses right there, 1.2. We will have the details on that offer as well. If I click into it, you'll see that it's cash. We can see it's an inbound offer, so we're selling it. It's a sale, inbound offer. And you'll see what their, the buyer intent is, that I'm looking to hold that property. I can from here, this would be a connection to your contract solution. DocuSign we deliver out of the box. It will let you select a template. Like, yep, I'm interested in sending Chris's offer, and so I should have some templates activated. I don't. It would let you select that template and the offer, and I can send that out for e-signature to finalize that deal. Let's also look at our prospects. So we created some prospects. All right, we can see some of those that are there. It would have deduplicated them, which I think is why we're seeing a few. And then also I see this one, Christopher Young, offered, right? Status offered, offer amount, offer date. So I can see those details right here from my view. So I just said send to all my buyers or whoever I selected. They got an email, they went to the portal, made an offer, it comes back into Salesforce, and I can see the status and I can respond and do the things that I need to do, all from within the platform pretty seamlessly. The beautiful thing is that it works. We have clients using it actively, posting properties, marketing through Salesforce, letting Marketing Cloud do its job, and it does work. They are getting offers back in, and it's working pretty smooth. Maybe a little curve to your agents or your buyers, realizing that you have your own portal and that they can make an offer straight through there. But for a few of our clients, the first day they turned it on, one of them in particular, they had 8 offers the first day on one property. First day they turned the portal on and marketed out, they had 8 offers on it. So pretty cool. It works, and it reduces a lot of the time for your team once you feel confident in it and realize it is working the way it is. So if there's some complexities, we can work through those. Shared tenant environments, maybe a little more complexity. If you've got different franchises, for instance, running, but that can work too. Okay, so let's go back to the Dispo form. We prepared for portal. We selected prospects. We could schedule a showing or an inspection if we need to from here. The next thing is the current offer and contract. So this one, we have an accepted contract already, and let's just clear that out. Say that one fell through. Maybe it didn't work out. They couldn't close on it. And let's go ahead and work a different one. It keeps that information in case you want to create a new offer with that same info. But let's swap this out. Let's go to this one. And you'll see it populate that data for me, which is excellent. Now this is just a new offer, right? We didn't accept it. Let's go ahead and say we can change it and say we got them up to 1-3. Same closing date, and we ended up at 5,000 earnest money cash. They do want a 5-day inspection period to just check a few things out. We've got the same seller, of course, the entity we bought under. That would have come in from the acquisition. We've got the Dispo title agent we can see there. And this one we show listing on market. But let's just say, hey, we ended up taking it off the market. We got a cash offer from our own portal, so we're not selling it on market. And let's say we accepted that today. So when I save these details, and that's going to change because I gave it an accepted date. And let's give him 5 days cash. Good. Naturally, that inspection period is number of days, so that if you're sending a contract out like, hey, 5 days, and then once it's accepted, you get a date. So because we put an accepted date in there, it toggled over to the actual due date field. I could save it without the due date in there, and it would let me do the 5 days and then put the accepted date, and it would automatically calculate the due date, just so you know. But that's there. Okay. Let me check something. Dispo. Okay, so we've got that new offer in place, and I think I didn't update that, and I think that's because I didn't save that offer on the record before I made those changes, which is my mistake. Always good to save the record, make sure it's committed to the record, to the transaction, and then make those updates, and we'll see those populate there. Perfect. Okay. Great. The next thing is if I need to put a title agent attorney or a lender, or I am listing on market, I can do that. I also have, which is important to note, Contract terms, if I've got certain property that's being conveyed or details or terms of that contract, if there were price reductions, if they negotiated price reductions and we agreed to them, we can include that. And then also if perhaps there is a contingency, so maybe there's an escrow holdback if it's a wholesale, which I think we talked about in this case, and they said, hey, I want to wait till these 3 doors are replaced, or HVAC's been serviced, or whatever the terms of your escrow holdback are. That can be included there. And of course, disclosures and docs, like the transaction coordinator at least needs the purchase and sale agreement, naturally. So that one is defaulted. And then there may be some other docs, right? Clue or HOA docs if it's in an HOA, lead-based paint. So some of those disclosures, by you selecting them, that gives the TC a leg up, right? It gives them a little bit of a head start on, hey, you're going to need to check for these things. And I may not have updated them or added them, but they're going to be necessary or needed in this transaction. Usually they'll find those anyways as they review the property and look at them, but always good to say, hey, this is a pre-79 build, 1978 or older, and so we need a lead-based paint, for example. Helps with compliance and just keeping things going. So that's good. And if we want to add inspection, that's fine too. And we'll show you in the transaction coordination video. We'll discuss, we'll review those and why they're important. And again, if you're listing on market, it gives you access to, hey, who's the listing agent, and what is the commission that you are offering for that, so that we can track your operating expenses and commissions. And then once it is sold, who was the selling agent, the broker and agent on the buyer side that actually sold it, and what was their commission. So we can plug that in too. Again, track it. Nice thing is if you add those contacts, it's going to start rolling up all the deals with those agents. And then you can start building some other information, some buy box information, who your key realtors are, who's working well for you, who's easy to do deals with. So always useful to create a contact for them if you need to. And I think we probably have a test one in here. Whoops, I just clicked the wrong thing. If you need to create one, you can always click new contact. And there's probably a brokerage in here, or you may, let's see, do we have a realty? I don't, it doesn't look like we do, which is weird. But you would usually have, the different brokerages already in there. If it's a solopreneur, you can always create them as a person account too. Add their name, either attach them to a Coldwell Banker or a Remax or whatever, or create them as a person account, and then the contact type here. So ideally this would be, realtor, right? And put their name. Let's just add one. And we'll create them as a person account, realtor, and save that. If you needed to create an account, you can do it just the same as we just did for the contact. You can just click new and add a couple of details, brokerage name, select the contact type or account type that they're a broker, and then it'll stay tied together. Sweet, there we go. Let's go ahead and save those details. If there's a lender involved, of course, like I mentioned, you can add them. If title agent, if you need to track that, you can add them as well. So that is a lot of the disposition process. You'll notice that almost everything was completed right here in this middle section. I didn't actually have to bounce over here. The only thing I did on the left-hand side was just to click the link to the portal right here and maybe review it. But otherwise, it's all available. I can see my timeline. I can add tasks and call logs and events. I can even complete tasks. Let me actually close that and say, hey, I gave him a call, all done. I can complete tasks, and then I can work the disposition process. So the condition, making sure rehab scope is clean, financials and estimates, my underwriting, make sure my exit price is correct, preparing for portal, and my interested buyers or prospects from there. I've got my offer and contract and even my contingencies and disclosures tracked here. Then I've got my prospects. If I want to add new ones or see who's made offers. I can also at the bottom see all of my prospects in addition to those that have made offers. And then I can see the offers that have come in and select a contract template and send, and this will open DocuSign. I apologize, I need to have that here so we can see that preview. So that's dispositions in a nutshell. There's always more to that process, but again, just kind of going back to the funnel, we can see that we handled all of these steps there for disposition process in that section with the disposition form. So again, this is Chris. Sorry that was a little long. That one was lengthy, but really useful. We're always trying to improve and streamline your business process, or at least the CRM that can work for you. We have added tools like Rain to be able to give you summaries, to be able to show you your day, to be able to give you key info for the property, to be able to draft emails. We can cover that. If you wanted it to, you could have it draft your email for you. Text messages. We've got Marketing Cloud automating a lot of marketing process. We have your data flowing over to your portal, and images and other things. So really doing the best we can to streamline and automate it. If you have ideas and suggestions, or you see things that just don't seem to be working the way they should, please let us know. We appreciate you, and we're grateful to have you as part of the 80/20 family and team. And we appreciate all the good collaboration, feedback, and ideas we get. We'll talk to you soon. Next up will be transaction coordination. Thank you.